Okay, we are on the halachis of Purim, and we're middle of siman Kuf Mem Aleph. We're up to Sif Yud Zayin. Okay, siman Kuf Mem Aleph, Sif Yud Zayin. So b'Shabbos she'eino. Oh, I'm sorry, we did that one. You are right. Sorry, we're up to Sif Yud Ches. Thank you. Sif Yud Ches. Tzibur she'ein lohem. Tzibur she'ein lohem shliach tzibur sheyachol likro es hamegillah ima taimim karo. Let's say, which thank God is not going to be a concern with anyone in this class because everyone is very into practicing Megillah. But if Chas Shalom there was a place that they had someone that was not capable of reading Megillah, so then Yachol Likre Gambale Taimim. So number one, you could do it without the Taimim. That's number one. Rak Sheyikres Hateves Kuro. The condition would be is that you have to read the words properly, meaning Shaloi Yishtane Ha'inyan. You shouldn't be changing the meaning of what you're reading. You don't need, it's not a requirement that you need to have the tunes, but you do need to have the words. For example, She'im Kadam Mordechai Yoshev Yashav. Let's say you switch from what it says in the Megillah, Mordechai Yoshev. Mordechai Yoshev means that he's sitting now, that he is sitting. Yashav means he sat in the past. So that changes the meaning. Or instead of saying Bahama Neufel, which means that he is falling, instead you say Nafal, that he fell. Inside, you'd see the words right there. Ukadema, or things that are similar that basically change the meaning. Avo b'diavad. But if b'diavad someone did that, no, I'm saying not avo. Afilu b'diavad eina yetzer. Someone switched the meaning of the words, then b'diavad he read it wrong, and it wouldn't be yetzer. So you could technically, there's other ones also, Yehudim and Yehudiyim, those are minor ones, but it's possible that these things could happen. Okay. Yehudim and Yehudiyim would be a different meaning, so that would not be. Let's just leave that for now. The point is that if you're changing something of the meaning behind it, then it becomes not kosher of a reading. But if you're just forgetting the tunes, it's okay. So I remember when I was in Bachar, I went on Mitzvayim for a bunch of years. I never learned how to read the Megillah. But what I realized is that every year that I went on Mitzvayim with people that officially learned how to read the Megillah, I realized that they also didn't know how to read the Megillah. So I had to teach myself so I could be Yetzah. So, but anyway, it's fine. Now, the Yecholim Naseis Bamgila Nekudet. Yecholim Naseis Bamgila Nekudes Utaimim Sheyikre Kohegit. Another option you have is that, and nowadays people don't do this anymore, but it used to be that what people would do is they would put inside the Megillah Nekudes, or the tunes, or things like that, and this way you'd be able to lane it properly. Kivachi Shas Atchat. And the reason this is talking about a situation where there's no one around that knows how to lane, and that's because it's a shas hatcha. Okay. Yeah. I think everyone understood what I meant. Yeah. So reading and laning together. Yes, that's what I did. So because there's no one. Okay, because there's. I don't know. Wrong. Because there's no one else around. Because there's no one else around, we're talking about no one else around. And therefore, this is the option that you could sometimes do of putting in the kudis or taimim, because as we're saying, it's a shas adchat. But even here, v'hachi adif tvei, this would be a better situation, mima sheyikra echad mitoich hachumish belachash, better than having someone standing next to the balkaida and helping him out. Why? Even though people do that in Shabbos or whatever. But here will be different. Why? The kivin shezak koyde meteicha chumash, because the one who's reading is reading from a chumash which is not kosher. Afilu koyde balachash, even if he does it quietly, eina yachal lechavin daite sheyishma mishliach hatzibur. Number one, he won't be able to listen to biyetza, and also other people might hear him also. So that's another issue. V'nimtza shekara rak meteicha chumash ve'ina yetza. Now, ve'im eidakach, if that's taka what happened, that you had someone sitting next to the balkaida helping him out, so that lachsar u'leshama meteich megillah ksheira, he would have to listen to the whole thing again. Now, by the way, also what we see interesting by Megillas that you don't see by Titus or things like that is that people make they have pictures inside of them. Now, not common, but it used to be definitely more common, and they have old ones, and even now, Sfardim and different people, is that they have pictures, images on the actual scroll, and inside of it, they write the Megillah in all different ways. So people do this. I wouldn't say it's not the best way. We try to make it similar to a Sefer Torah as much as we can. So we try to keep it without anything, but you can even see it now. I saw someone advertising they want to sell it for very expensive. It's a rolled up one. It's a whole thing. And each page has another image of a design in the background, colorful. People do that. So it's not ideal, but people do that. And it wouldn't make it It wouldn't make it possible, but we don't. I mean, we as in our mitigants, we try not to, but people definitely do that. And there's some very beautiful ones, old ones with all these extravagant images. Some of them are based on the prakim or whatever is spoken about in that Amud. Some are different, whatever. Okay, either way, the kids are like this. What comes out from this halacha is learn Megillah. If you're going to learn Megillah, make sure you know it. Make sure you know the timing. Make sure you know everything. It shouldn't be so it shouldn't come as a challenge later on. If it was in a situation where there's no one around. So first of all, nowadays a lot of people have signs and things like that. So that would alleviate the issue of not listening. But even with the signs, it could be the guy's going to get too distracted. It's not ideal. Ideal is you should learn how to do it. But if it's that situation, so then someone could help you out on the side, and either they won't listen then, if let's say you're by a party, so they could do it later, maybe themselves later, if they're going to read, and if they're going to do simanim, then I guess it could work, but it's not ideal. Fine, sifya test. Also, that's a little bit different than Kriyas HaTorah. Kriyas HaTorah is really a chayv on the tzibur more than on individuals. Megillah is actually a chayv on the individual. Every person needs to hear Megillah. That's why it's also very different. When it comes to the community hearing Kriyas HaTorah throughout the year, as long as it's the requirement is less on the individual. Okay, sifya test. What happens if you come to somewhere where they don't have one? So if you're going to visit I don't know prisoners or someone gets stuck somewhere, you don't have a Megillah. So so now depends what we're talking about here. If you do have a Megillah, it's just not written the right way. In other words, that it's it's missing some words. So usually if a mezuzah or tefillin or Torah is missing words, obviously it would be possible. It doesn't matter what the words are. But over here by a Megillah, as long as it's not missing a complete topic, it's kosher. You're allowed to read from it with the brachas and everything. What about the part that it's missing? So no problem. That part he should read balpeh. Or someone should read to him next to quietly from the chumash, and he should repeat the words. So as long as it's not missing a full inyan, it would be okay. He doesn't say it. Also, Avol. Im ein la Megillah klal. Let's say you don't have a Megillah, or oisha chaser ba'inyan echad shalem, or if it's missing a complete topic, oisha chaser ba'batchilo yasayf, or it's missing the first pasuk or the last pasuk. Then it's possible. And once it's possible, it's basically nothing. You may as well read it from a chumash. Everyone should read by themselves. Don't listen to one person. When you have a kosher one, so then everyone listens to one person. Even if you don't have a minyan, but there's one person, you can listen. But if there's no kosher one, so then everyone should really read by themselves. You don't make a bracha on it. Let's say there's a person, Yachid, and he only has a Megillah Psula. So create a Babbalei Brachas. You read from it without Brachas, you could take from a Chumash, it's really the same thing. So again, it's hard to make a Megillah Pasuk because it has to be missing, like Mamish, the first Pasuk, the last Pasuk, or Rave of a certain Inyan. So it's you have some very old ones where Mamish, it's everything is possible. It could happen, or if it has holes, or I don't know what. But overall, it's much much harder to make it possible. Which is why when people are learning Safras, let's say they always start with that. It doesn't have Hashem's name. You don't have to write it in order. There's a lot of different things about it that make it more lenient. Yeah.
What would constitute a complete
So it would be a full topic. You have to each case separately. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't know if it doesn't give exact examples, but let's say there's 2-3 psukim talking about one part. Let's say the story with let's say Biksun and Seresh. It's like 5-6 psukim or something.
7.
It's not so much. It's 4 or 5 maybe even. It's even less. Whatever. So that would be one full topic. Or let's say it's the party, this, that. I don't know. You have certain cases. Haman, his wife's talking to him. I don't know. A full Indian. Fine. Says the Kitzur weiter Sif Chav. Ovel. What happens if you have someone who is in Avelos? So if he's Toich Shiva, if he's in the middle of Shiva, Noyeg B'chol Din Avelos, he continues to behave as if he's in Avelos. Le'olenu va'asr lireis kol minei simcha, and he's not supposed to show any form of simcha on Purim. Now this is actually, it's a little bit of a machlekes, but for sure, for things that are what we call betzina, things that he does at home, in those areas he has to completely keep avelos. If he's in public, where then maybe there's some area for machlekes, but he paskins that you should not experience or do any avelos in public. Now, b'ne'ilas sandal the yeshiva agabe safso. Now, the thing is, when it comes to, let's say, wearing proper shoes, or let's say sitting on normal chairs, so then mutter, that you're supposed, what I say, I said, asr liras, what I say, Yeah. Also, that's going to yeah. But if it comes to things that have to do with, let's say, real shoes or sitting on real chairs, that mutter that you should do in because those are things that everyone sees, and you don't do avelos in public on Purim. Everything private you do. So fine. Now, Balayla. So how does it work in terms of, let's say, you're not supposed to leave your house. You're supposed to have the minyan in your house. So Balayla, if it's the night, which means Ma'ariv and the first night of Yom Tif, of Purim, so Im Yachol Asaf Minyan the Beisay Likra Megillah. If he could gather a minyan together and they'll daven Ma'ariv and then they'll also read the Megillah, Mutiv, that's the best way to do it, even if it's not in shul with the biggest minyan. But the Im Lav, if you can't gather a minyan, so then Yispalo Bebeisay, daven Ma'ariv first in your home. Not you, Chas V'Shalom, the person who's sitting on Velos, and then V'yelech lebeis haknesses l'shem Megillah. Then you should go to shul to hear the Megillah. V'im chaba mitzvah Shabbos. What happens if it's mitzvah Shabbos? So then what he should do is like this: Yelech lebeis haknesses la'achar sudash shlishis b'edei yom. Go to shul for mincha, basically, and stay there. And then you stay there till after the reading of the Megillah, instead of going home. Ubayayim, and what about if it was the day, Sunday day? So then already you go to shul regularly because that would be showing Avelis in public. So you go to shul. He would go to shul in a normal way. Now, Sif Chafalef. Again, hopefully these are halachas. We should never need these particular ones. Sif Chafalef. Let's finish this siman here today. Misha meis lemeis b'tainis Esther. If God forbid someone passes away on tainis Esther, balaylu oinin kredim akfura. So that night the relatives are in a status of an oinin. Yishma krias megillah me'achar. You should hear the megillah from someone else. He's not really supposed to learn Torah. V'lo yirichol basar. He also shouldn't eat meat. V'lo yishta yayin. Ki balayla ina chayav b'mishteh. Because anyways at night there's no chayav of mishteh, as we'll talk about tomorrow. So therefore, better don't do anything like that. But ubiyoyin. What about by day? So the achar yitziyah mebeisa knesses, after he should go to shul first in the morning and daven, and then kurvin esames. Then they should do the kura. Well, the achar kach hispalel, then he should daven later, meaning he goes to shul in the beginning with everyone else, but he doesn't daven then because an oinin is not supposed to daven. But what does he do? V'yikras ha-megillah or yishma me'achar. Then, after he davens, after the levaya, then he should also hear the Megillah or listen to someone else or read it himself. Now, v'yim shama kriyas ha-megillah kodem akfura. Let's say he was in shul, like we said, and he heard the Megillah there. So yatsa, he would be yatzeh. But if it come makan, nevertheless, nachon sheyachsa v'yikra'ena b'lei brachas. It's best if he does it again after. Same thing, by the way, with chitas. I'm not mistaken. When it comes to people that are an einin, I think they do it first and then they do it again later. Maybe I'm not sure exactly. According to the Kitzur, which is not the way we paskin, he should not put on tefillin the entire day. Because this is the first day of Avelos, as we learned in the Gemara earlier, that the first day of Avelos is the most severe, and therefore they don't. Our minhag, if you look in the bottom where it says Yud Beis, our minhag, they do put tefillin on the first day, and even tefillin of Rabbeinu top. So we would do differently. Not us permanent specifically, but the Lubavitchers that were experiencing this, they would put on tefillin after. If the kvura didn't happen for whatever reason, so that day he's going to be an oinin, then he would eat basar and yain, because then already it's a mitzvah and it's something that's public. So at that point he would do it. Sifcha beis. Let's finish it. Sorry. Sifcha beis. Not you guys. Sorry for the guys online. Sifcha beis shachres in the morning. Mashkim in the beis haknesses. You go to shul early. La'achar Shmeina Esrei, and then after Shmeina Esrei, Oimrim Chatzi Kaddish, you say Chatzi Kaddish. So you go through regular davening, and after Shmeina Esrei, you do Chatzi Kaddish, Rekredim B'Torah, and then you read the Torah. This would be like a regular Kriya, and you do B'Parshas Vayavi Amalek Tlasa Gavri, 3 people get an aliyah. And then in the bottom, he just mentions that for this Kriya, instead of like what we did by Parsha Zachar, of Zecher Zecher, here you would do Zecher Zecher. You do the other way around, because it's from the other Parsha. Now, I'll tell you after. Now, but basically, when it says the word zecher or zecher, there's a machlekes how to read it. So in the parsha, when we do it in parshas now, this Shabbos, parsha zacher, so then zecher takes precedence. So we do zecher, and then you say again the word zacher as zecher. Mashenkin on Purim, where it's the other parsha that talks about Amalek later. So then you switch it around, and you would do zecher and then zecher. Yeah. Now, ba'achar chatzi kaddish, then you do another chatzi kaddish because now you finished reading the title, and then la'achar, and after that. I skipped a few words here, but we'll get back to that. After that, you read the Megillah. After you finish reading the Megillah and you finish the brachas, you don't say a specific thing, whatever. But you do say Shoshanas Yaakov. So after a Kelam Mashiach, so after a Kelam Mashiach, you say Shoshanas Yaakov. After Rav Tzivenu, whatever. Then you say Shoshanas Yaakov, and then you move on straight to Ashrei V'Litzin Kaddish Shalom in Tiskava. The ein lachlet as a tefillin ad la'achar kriyas hamegillah. You keep your tefillin on the whole time. Mishum, and there's a reason why we like to do that, because the ksiv ba vikar. It says in the Megillah vikar. And vikar v'darshin on elu tefillin. Now the im yesh mila, if there's a bris mila, so then malin kodim kriyas hamegillah, you do the bris mila before you read the Megillah. Mishum the ksiv is sasain, right? It says sasain vikar. Sasain is umila. So yakar is tefillin, so you leave it on. Now about this, let's go to the bottom for a second, where it says that you dial it on the bottom. Minagenu she'im machzirin as a sefer Torah. Our minig actually is that we do not put the Torah back until after you read the Megillah, and then you do Ashrei V'Litzi and Kaddish Iskabel, and then you put the Torah back. And this is from the sefer called the Shara Koila, as we mentioned, the Rebbe's great grandfather. And then they asked the Rebbe after, should we change it? Because in the Siddur it says the Alter Rebbe writes that you should first put the Sefer Torah back. And the Rebbe said, don't change it, whatever it says in the Siddur we leave, but you can make a note on it that this is the way it should be done. Fine. And then, okay, let's do the last one over here. The cities that were surrounded by a wall from the times of Yeshua ben Nun, so they created they read the Megillah on the next day, the 15th. He says, obviously, he says where he lived in Romania, it wasn't common. There are some cities like that, but the Rebbe has a whole few letters where he writes about Haifa to see if Haifa, if it's considered Irshim Mekefas Chema back then or not. And that's another topic. But either way, in Eretz Yisrael, by now they all know which ones. So all the locals should be aware of it. But as the Kitzur said, for us also, it's not so common here.